Okay, welcome. I think we're live here. All right, welcome everybody. We're gonna wait for a couple minutes while we have a few more people joining us. But thanks for everybody for coming out on this Sunday night. Sunday night in the U.S., Monday morning Japan time. This is our weekly Zoom call from the American Sake Association. We've been doing this for a couple weeks. Yeah, so thanks everybody for coming. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jamie Graves. I am based here in New York City. Have been working with Japanese food and cuisine in some form or another in restaurants and other capacities for probably close to 18 years at this point, something like that. But I've worked directly, very closely in sake with restaurants. And in the past couple of years, I've worked for a company based here in New York called Skrinic Wines, and I do all of the Japan stuff for them, sake, shochu, and all that stuff. But yeah, welcome everybody. Super excited to be here. I'm one of your hosts for tonight. Our other host, the illustrious sake ninja himself, the Chris Johnson.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on our Sunday sake socials, which are obviously a lot of fun, a little bit of education, a lot of fun, and a little bit of drinking a little bit later. So we're all going to enjoy it. I am, as previously mentioned by my good friend Jamie, Chris Johnson, also known as the Sake Ninja. I've been lucky enough to work with this beverage for quite a while and have enjoyed it in all different aspects. I currently also work as the national sales manager for World Sake Imports, and love sake and excited about having everybody here with us. And we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping real quick to talk about a few things to help you understand how our webinar is going to work. If you don't know, this is going to be a webinar in the beginning, and then we're going to move to a meeting later where we're going to be able to enjoy each other in our Niji Kai, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So if you want to interact with us, you can click on chat. In the chat menu, we want you to select panelists and attendees so that everybody can see your messages. If you want to say hello or put a little information or question there, we also would like you to use the Q&A panel for your more official questions that are directed towards Justin and our guests. We'll talk about them in a second. We also love the idea of you guys jumping on camera with us. So if you want to come share a little something and we have time, we'll pull you on. So you can raise your hand in the chat area. There's a little screen on the bottom where you can raise your hand. That'll let us know that you want to jump on camera with us, and we'll do our best to pull you up. And then at the end of the webinar, this is important to try and make everybody's life super easy. There will be a link to a survey. I know you're thinking, oh my God, not another survey. I have to fill those out every time I do anything. This survey is special because it's a short little question, but right on the survey page, there will be a link to the Niji Kai so you can get to our party quick. Jamie, what do you got for us?
All right, so yeah, we are part of the American Sake Association. We are, if you're interested in learning more about us, you can find us at americansakeassociation.org, kind of all of our essential details right there. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at, wait for it, American Sake Association. Very easy. Yep, all of our details there.
So you might have heard me say the word Niji Kai a couple times already. So Niji Kai basically means second party. So we have a little second party afterwards because we've learned, but we also want to have this social. It's a sake social. So the social part will be able to see each other, kanpai, and kind of open forum. There's no plans in the second one. There's nothing specifically run. So again, we would love to have you join us. Let us know what you're drinking. Have a little kanpai. And again, after the webinar, click that survey. The link will be on our homepage.
All right, so just to let you guys know a little bit about us as an organization, this is something that was started, really, I think started with a conversation, God, a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point, among specifically Chris, Tim Sullivan and myself. We're all based here in New York City, and there's kind of a very great sake scene here in New York City. It definitely sucked me in from restaurants and got me kind of very excited about it. And we were talking about how there's such a great community here, and we've done a lot of sort of charitable fundraising things on the fly. And we really wanted to put sort of a structure around that. That we always sort of, whenever we did these events, it was always kind of figuring it out at the last minute and kind of putting it together. And we realized we were kind of doing these things anyway, and the community existed anyway. So why don't we put a structure around that, make something that's easy when we need to raise funds for fundraising for charitable causes. We've got a structure for that. Yeah, over kind of several months have talked about how that would work. We were, now actually set up a 501c3, so this thing is actually looking kind of legit, somewhat. So it's, there's a couple different things we're looking to do here. One of it is those raising money for charitable causes when they come along, but also just a great forum for education about sake in the US. We're all tied to different sake brands. I'm work for a distributor, and usually these things, when you do education and whatnot, it's always tied to some different brand or some different distributor, which is, it's great. I mean, you get a lot of great education that way, but we wanted something that was really separate from all of that, that kind of raised the profile and sort of the awareness around sake as a whole, and would kind of help lift all boats, help support this great industry and community in Japan and New York that we love so much. Sort of all the great people in sake support just really the whole industry overall. So that's who we are as the American Sake Association.
So we want to know what you're drinking, but real quick, we're going to launch a little poll, and we'd love to know what you're drinking tonight. So let us know what you're enjoying. We're going to leave that up for a minute so we can see where we're at. Nama came in #1 last week, which was pretty interesting. We'll see where we sit this week. While I ask that question, Jamie, what are you drinking tonight?
I am actually drinking a Nama.
There you go.
Last week I was drinking a very kind of specific seasonal spring-only release Nama. This is, for those of you who don't know it, can you guys see this here? Soma no Tengu. This is a great, very kind of small artisanal producer from Shiga, right next to Kyoto. They are very much in that shizenha sort of style of sake. Shizenha is sort of the natural movement in sake. So, I mean, that's kind of hard to define, but it's, it's the people that once you brew the sake really don't do as much to it after that. You leave it unpasteurized, leave it unfiltered, you don't proof it down, you leave it genshu, that kind of thing. And these guys as well, very unusually, they're one of the only breweries I know of that does 100% spontaneous fermentation. So they let those tanks sit. Wild yeast that lives in the brewery gets in there. It's a super unique taste. I don't know any sake that tastes like this. It tastes like super tangy and lemony, and doesn't, I mean, it's, I don't always want to drink this. It's a very distinctive thing, but I don't know, it's a really nice, pretty day today. Here in New York, we had really great weather. So just felt like this really kind of nice, bright, lemony kind of sake today. What are you drinking, Chris?
Well, I'm drinking a sake from Akitabare up in Akita. It's a new daiginjo that they've just released to the States. Kind of a nice new approach, representing a little bit of that Akita component. I'm starting to run low on sake, so I need to go make a run soon. I'm digging into my daiginjos, which is not a problem. But I drank both of my namas last week, so we gotta move towards the next. But it's a wonderful, nice round, great expression of Akita and daiginjo, and really clean and refreshing, which is awesome. So we're getting close to 77% on our poll. So you know what? We're gonna just give the winners. Why don't we share that poll with everybody? And we are a tie.
Oh, it is a tie.
Unfortunately, a tie between both Junmai, which is fantastic, and not drinking sake tonight.
Yeah, I also, weirdly, nobody's drinking Honjozo, that, the poor forgotten, category in sake.
But hey, we got 2 people drinking koshu this week, and we got 1 person who joined in on the nigori. So, we're moving it up. It's good. Yeah. We're moving a little bit farther into the next levels of that poll. That was kind of fun.
Yeah. All right. So, so today, or tonight, this morning, depending if you're in Australia, America, we're getting used to different time zones here on the internets. I'm super excited what we're able to put together tonight. If you guys haven't heard yet, we're going to be able to do a live stream to Japan. We're going to be going to that in about a minute. My good friend Justin Potts is over there. He lives in rural Chiba, sort of east of Tokyo, and he's very involved in kind of the whole sake scene overall there. Really connected to people doing the most interesting things to me in Tokyo, small restaurants serving it in interesting ways, really interesting producers, and also agriculture. Really the people who, make the raw ingredients, the rice that obviously forms the basis of sake overall. So for tonight, we're going to go visit a rice field in rural Chiba with this great rice farmer there, and also a brewer as well, who is in that area. So we're going to meet with them in a moment. All
That's
right.
super exciting. I'm
Yeah.
excited to have that happen. We're gonna get to have another face on this screen with us and and enjoy that part of it. I think the whole idea of getting to plant rice and understand the depth that goes into the beginnings of sake is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So let's see. Can we connect to Justin? Get over there. It's a gorgeous day over there. We were just looking at his stream, and they got gorgeous blue skies. We're looking at the fields a moment ago, and it looks really, really pretty. Oh, I think we've got a video stream. Do we have audio, Mr. Potts?
I hope so. How are we doing?
Oh man, there you are, loud and clear.
Are we channeled in?
Yeah, live from Monday morning in Chiba.
Yeah, welcome to Monday morning in my life on the other side of the planet.
From the future.
Dialed in from the future. Perfect.
I'll let you know what's coming in about 12 hours after we're done.
Please, let us know.
How are you?
All the predictions.
How are you gentlemen doing?
All right, so Justin, why don't you sort of tell us a little bit about yourself, about how you, I don't know, why the heck you're living in Chiba and talking to us from a rice field. What got you into sake and agriculture and all this stuff?
Yeah, I'm going to do this really quick.
Yeah, of course.
Because we have a limited amount of time. I've been in Japan for roughly about 15 years or so. My pathway into sake was actually through working with many different types of farmers, a lot of people in agriculture, a lot of rural development around Japan. In doing that, I encountered rice farmers, encountered sake, encountered miso, encountered koji, and all those things. In doing that for about the last decade, I ended up doing more and more in sake, ended up going a little deeper, got into brewing. I spent a couple of years full on brewing. I'm not a farmer by any means, but I have my feet out in some field somewhere in some region across Japan for one reason or another, more often than not. And I moved out to Chiba about, it's close to 5 years now. Spent about 3-4 years in Kansai, about 6-7 years in Tokyo, and now I've been out here for close to 4 years now.
Nice.
I came here to be involved in more agricultural related adventures, So so I'm here.
Great, cool, man. Great. So who do you have with you there?
So let me get our guests. Let me flip my camera around here real quick here. I'll tell you who we got here. So today we're visiting. So real quick, we're gonna be visiting. We've got two guests. One is Mr. Tsurubuchi-san. He runs a rice farm out here called Tsurukame Noen, literally Tsurukame Farm or rice farm. He engages in all natural regenerative agriculture. He's been out here for a number of years, as well as Mr. Shoji-san, who is fifth generation at Kidoizumi, which is where I also spent a stint doing some brewing as well too. And everybody here, from my home to the farm to Kidoizumi, it's all about a 10-minute radius or drive for everybody. So we're all right here in the neighborhood. And so as opposed to just me yapping at everyone for 45 minutes, I thought it would be better to have some folks who have a little more authority.
The experts.
Speak on this. So let me flip a camera around here. Let's see. All right, there's our stars. There's our stars. Can we see everybody? All right.
ここだったらこんばんはですね。こんばんは。こんばんは。おはようございます。
And on everyone's right there is going to be Tsurubuchi-san from Tsurukame Noen, and on the left is Shoji-san from Kidoizumi Sake Brewery. Tsurubuchi-san, how about just a brief introduction? 簡単な自己紹介お願いします。
meet you. My name is Shinichi Tsurubuchi. はい。今後でいきますね。
はい。
お米を作ってます。で、僕はここの生まれ育ちで、7年前からお米を作り始めたんです。はい。農薬や肥料とかを使わずに、あるものだけでこんなに豊かだっていうことが、自分で知りたいし、共有したくて、やってます。はい。
So Tsurubuchi-san is actually from here in Isumi, in this area of Chiba, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. He's from here. He's born and raised here, and he started this natural rice farming about 7 years ago. When he returned back to the area and wanted to just not only get into rice farming, but look at sort of the bigger picture and look at sort of that related ecosystem and sort of the natural environment, how that all ties in. And so he practices, use of no inputs and regenerative practices that give back to the field and to the surrounding environment. And next to him, we have Mr. Shoji. Shoji-san. Good morning.
Morning. My name is Hayato Shoji. 日本語で言います。
Okay.
僕はですね、このいすみの地で、1879年から、日本酒造りをさせていただいております。木戸泉酒造の今、蔵元代表を務めております。で、この地でですね、ジャスティンや、鶴渕さんと一緒に素晴らしい仲間と一緒に、自然栽培の、お米を使ったりですね、いろいろなお米を使って、皆様に美味しい日本酒、うまきよき酒をお届けしております。よろしくお願いします。
Right, so Mr. Shoji is fifth generation at Kido Izumi. Kido Izumi has been around since 1879. He is now the current president, as well as Toji, master brewer there. A lot of the sake that Kido Izumi uses is naturally grown or organically grown. That's sort of a core to part of their ethos, and since they've been invested in for a long period of time. And together with folks like Tsurubuchi-san and people like myself, who we all kind of band together and try to make delicious sake that stands the test of time. So here we are.
All right. Great, Justin. So I know that you've prepared some images for us to kind of explain the whole rice agriculture process. We've actually, I think we've got a question here.
Yeah, shoot.
Hold on a second. Yes, so to the farmers here in Japan, we've already had some very hot summer-like temperatures. Any thoughts on how it may affect the growing season?
もうすでにもうだいぶ暑くなってきてるんですけれども、これからのお米作りになんか影響されるとかっていうなんか予想されてることありますか？暑さとか天候今の段階で。
そうですね。今のところはすごくいい感じにいますし、やっぱり自然で育てるってことはなんですかね、最大の実りを得るっていうことではないんですけど、いろいろなそういう環境変化にも強いので、去年なんかも日照不足がすごかったり、歴史的な悪さがあったりするんですけど、大体毎年いい年も悪い年も同じように取れるっていうような特徴、強さ、その柔軟性というか順応性があるなとは思って、あまり心配はしてず。
Yeah. So with regards to the nature of agriculture that Tsurubuchi-san is focusing on, because it sort of works in flux with the nature of the environment around him. For example, last year was treacherous. I mean, there were a lot of days where they were lacking a lot of sunlight. There were a lot of cloudy days. There was hot days. It was all over the place. That being said, when you're doing a style of agriculture or farming that is more in tune with those fluctuations, the ability to sort of cope with those is also strengthened as well too. So at this time it's kind of hard to say, and it kind of depends on where you're at too. I say we're in Chiba. It's relatively warm out here. Different regions around Japan are going to be feeling things in different ways as well. So.
Awesome. Great. So yeah, Justin, I know that just to kind of give us a sense of the whole rice growing process, you've prepared a couple slides for us. Are you able to walk us through that?
Yeah, sure. If you want to go ahead and pull those up.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
All right. Yeah. So real quick here. So one of the main goals of kind of today's session is just to give everybody just a really basic understanding of what that process looks like. I know, pretty much everybody out there, I imagine, is very familiar with sake and the nature of how it's brewed. And I imagine a lot of people have been to breweries or done visits and done tastings and things of that nature. But the chance to see that process from start to finish, unless you're here, it's something you can't always engage in. So we wanted to try and give you a little bit of a feel for that, so you can get a little bit closer to that. So today we're just going to really just the basics, kind of walk you through what more or less a year looks like. And we'll be showing some samples and things along the way, showing some pictures, and then we'll have a chance for some time for some Q&A. And we'll be happy to take questions throughout as well too. So we'll do our best. Just real quick, up top here, what you're looking at is where Isumi is. This is where we are standing right now. Just to give everybody a point of reference, we're only about 90 minutes. If you hop the train, we're only about 90 minutes outside of Tokyo, about 90 minutes from Haneda Airport or Narita Airport on the peninsula. This is the Boso Peninsula. We're about halfway down on the Pacific coast. Chiba is the flattest prefecture in all of Japan. There's, I mean, anything they call a mountain here is really only a few hundred meters high. That being said, it's the nature of the river and the waterway structures are very well suited for rice farming and agriculture. So this is a major agricultural region as well, not just for rice, but for a number of different things. And so if you want to go ahead and flip to the next slide. So this is where we're standing from above. As you can see, this is 90 minutes outside of Tokyo for anybody who's curious. It's rather lovely out here. A lot of rice farming. There's a lot of dairy farming. There's a lot of fruit. There's a whole lot of different stuff out here because we're also next to the ocean. So if you want to hop to the next slide for me.
Oh, wow.
So that is about 5-10 minutes from where we're standing right now. That coastline. So there was supposed to be the very first surfing for the Olympics was supposed to be about 15 minutes from here. As you all know, that won't be happening this year. Fingers crossed that we'll have that next year. But fantastic seafood and things like that as well. So that's kind of where we're at. If you want to, and what we're going to do now is just kind of walk through really briefly the flow, the process of what it means to grow rice from seed. So if you want to go to the next slide for me. Okay, so what you're looking at now, so when we're getting into sort of the process of, so where does rice farming start? Where does it end? It's some capacity, it's a year-long process, and there's a lot of different things along the way. If we were to do everything in super detail, we would need probably 2 days. So I've kind of broke it down in some other parts that people maybe should be aware of, that I felt people should be aware of, that maybe don't always get talked about. What you're looking at here is the seed selection process. And I don't mean seed selection as far as what type or what varietal. What varietals different regions use, it can depend on the farmer and the region and their access to different seeds and whatnot, and the focus of their agriculture. What you're looking at here is the selection of better seeds from a selection of the allocated seeds. The composition in within the rice actually affects the weight. So if you go out and when you cut rice in the end of the season, you feel some of those are really light, like there's almost nothing inside those husks, whereas some of them are just fully fleshed out. What you're looking at here is what they do is they'll take the seeds and they'll submerge them in like a saline solution, and the ones that are that have better developed properties are going to be heavier and they will sink, whereas the very light ones will float. And so based on that, they will go through and select the better seeds to then use for that season, as then well to keep for coming seasons. If you want to go to the next slide for me. So then what you're looking at here is then once those seeds have been selected, so these are the ones that are going to actually be planted, and you can see they're submersed in water. And so what they have to do is they have to soak those in order to get those to germinate. You can take those seeds and you can chuck them in the soil all you like, but unless those have germinated, nothing is going to grow. So in order to get the rice to germinate, you have to put it in water and leave it to submerge for a period of time, and you'll see these little tiny green sprouts that will pop out, and so you'll know when those are ready. Okay, you can forward that. And then once you have those, they'll take those, they'll dry them out, and then what they will do is they will sowing of the seeds or the seeding. And in some cases, if you look a lot of images of, say, especially in like Southeast Asia and different places, they'll seed directly into the fields. Here it's done a little differently, where they plant them in these planting beds. And what it is basically they will put a composition of soil into these small trays and run them through a machine that will place the soil, and then it will sprinkle the seeds in there at a particular density, and then it will sprinkle more soil on top of that. And so if you want to go to the next slide for me. When it comes out, you can't see the seeds. And so what you can see there are these trays. They're just these plastic trays, elongated trays that will have the seeds inside and you can't see them. From there, once you have those germinated seeds inside there, then you have to go about the process of actually raising those to a healthy state in the fields. Next slide. And over time, they start to look like this over a matter of days. Usually these are kept in a greenhouse where they are watered and tended to, and they're able to control the humidity and temperature. A warmer temperature is going to help those to grow a little bit faster. Next slide. As you can see here, that's Tsurubuchi-san watering the seedlings there inside the greenhouse. And the idea is, and it seems really simple, but if you notice how flat and even those are, it seems like not a big deal, but keeping that even, the rice, those seeds are incredibly sensitive. So any unevenness in the level of the surface that those are being raised on, if there's any irregularities in the house or anything, you're going to notice it immediately at this stage, as they're going to grow really sporadically. You're going to have really tall areas and really short areas. And then when it actually comes to actually planting those in the fields, it's going to be really challenging because some are going to be too short to plant. You're going to have to end up throwing a bunch away. The battle is really, in a way, a lot with sake as well too, is keeping things consistent. And so developing consistency at these early stages is really important. Next
Hey,
slide.
Justin, I have a quick question from Jeff Barenberg. And he wants to know, do most farmers select their own seeds, or they use specialized nurseries? Obviously, both specific to sake production and then normal life.
Yeah, let me ask these gentlemen here real quick.
We got a little bit of wind there. I know it was very windy yesterday. Kind of lucked out actually with the weather.
So with regards to selecting which different varietals they're going to use, that is up to the farmer. At least these independent farmers, for example, with Tsurubuchi-san, he selects rice that speaks to him, ones that he feels are good for his field, ones that are well suited for the type of farming that he's doing, as well as, and then what you're also going to make. So with regards to, say, making sake as well too, what are you going to make? So what is the end product? What's suitable for that field, as well as what's suitable for your end goal. Does that address that there?
Yeah, I think so. Great. Yeah, are you sorry we interrupted you there. Are you able to
no worries.
where you left off?
Go ahead. You can forward that slide along for me. Is that still what everybody's still seeing the slides, correct?
Yeah, we're all good.
Cool. And so that's what they're going to grow to be. So actually, if you want to pull out of the presentation real quick and bring us back on here, we'll show you kind of what we've got. So there's me. I'm going to spin you around here. I hope. There we are. So what we've got here are some things to show you. じゃあ、鶴渕さん、これ何なんですか? So what we got here are a couple of different varieties of seeds here. これは何の品種ですか? So what we're looking at here is koshihikari. That's going to be the most common variety throughout Japan, used as a table rice. That being said, in certain conditions, it's also classified as a sake-specific rice and is used in sake production quite often as well. コシヒカリ結構使いますよね。
コシヒカリはそうですね。
ある程度。
はい。自然栽培。
はい、そうです。はい。あとは、what else do we got here?
これがまさにですね、いろいろ料理が入っているから選別をしていきます。
これ何の？
これは緑餅、あくね餅です。
So this is something completely different. So this is a green variety of mochi rice. And this is before it's actually gone through the selection process. So you can see there's all kinds of little pieces of straw and all kinds of different things in there. So this is prior to any sort of a sorting or selection process. これは全然違いますね。And then this is going to be a black long grain variety here. So we're thinking about whether or not there's a way we can make some interesting sake out of something of this nature. So,
which variety is that there?
So this is 品種で言うと、
ざっくり振る舞いでいますね。いろいろあります。これは名前のあるものですね。
So honestly, exactly what name or what variety is, not sure, to be honest. It is, as you can see, it's black.
I was going to say, is that like a purple or a black variety?
Exactly, it's a black variety. Exactly within, there's, as with white rice, there's many different varieties. They're not quite as tracked quite in the same way that there is in much detail. A lot of the places that are growing them are doing it sort of in their own kind of Spartan style, and getting stuff from all over the place. And so exactly what variety it would be, I'm not sure, but thinking it might be interesting to try and brew something with this as well.
Interesting. Just a note for those of you submitting questions, we're going to save a little space at the end of this to get to your questions. So just to give them enough time to be able to get through a little presentation here.
Get through stuff here. And then over here we have the... So as we were just showing there in the presentation, after you seed those, after those have been planted, they've been grown in the greenhouse. These are all now ready to plant. And we have 3 different varieties here. The one on the right being Kamino. Sake folks will probably be familiar with that one. There's actually Kamino, if you want to go and start studying that one, that is a wild story, and the number of varieties and quote unquote real Kamino, if you're trying to track that down, is a mission in of itself. So if you want to do a session on that another day, we can get into that.
So Kamino is a sake specialty rice, is that right?
Yes and no. It's an older heirloom variety, and so traditionally, no, it was pre-concept of sake rice, but it was used to make sake rice a long time ago. And so it had been touted for its quality with regards to brewing, and so it has this reputation for that. And so nowadays it tends to be handled as such. But if you look at sort of the makeup of it, it's actually much, in a lot of ways, really closer to a table rice. But the number of places that are working with Kamino have skyrocketed over the last decade or so. In particular, is a lot of places are trying to get back into more of those heirloom varieties and things. The same way you're seeing a lot of people get into like omachi and things of that nature.
Yeah.
This is a completely different beast from omachi. And then these other 2 here, what do we have in the middle? The one in the middle is something called Inochi no Ichi. Number 1 life. This is a super massive rice. Like these kernels are just chunky, just massive. And it was a spontaneous what do you call that? English isn't coming out.
Spontaneous development?
Spontaneous mutation. Or not spontaneous, but it's one that, it's a mutation that they found in the field. It was from koshihikari. It was an exceptionally long stalk that they found. So that's what they're experimenting with. The one on the left, kamiyakari, is from Shizuoka. There's only about 6 farmers in all of Japan that are growing it. That's kind of a funky one as well too. So he's got some plans for that. So So yeah, just as a small supplement to this, everything we're talking about today is true with regards to the process. All of it is true, factual, and it's going to hold true wherever you go with regards to farming or sake brewing.
Mhm.
That being said, from a rice farming perspective, Tsurubuchi-san, his style of doing so is somewhat different, right? Just in the nature of his agricultural practice. Same with Kido Izumi, the nature of their sake brewing is somewhat different from everybody. So if the examples that you're looking at today are, the base properties are all true, but it's basically a whole lot of exceptions sprinkled throughout. So with
that
that in
kind of
mind,
seems to be always the case.
yeah, with that in mind. So yeah, if you want to then pop over to the presentation here real quick, we'll try and churn through this. I know we're starting to run low on time here.
No, we're good. And I think I'd like to have some time for questions at the end. We got some great questions
Yeah.
lined up.
All right, so we'll even go ahead and skip that one there. Sorry, I stood up too fast, a little dizzy. Give me a second. So what you're looking at here.
Don't fall in the field. Don't fall in the water.
It wouldn't be the first time. So what you're looking at here, this, and you can go ahead and in the next two slides, you can kind of scroll through these. What you're looking at here, a lot of times the rice growing process, a lot of people just focus on the planting as well as the harvesting. However, the process before and after and in between, what's happening here is happening in tandem with all of the seeding and with all the selection and the seeding and all the things that are happening there. They have to prepare these rice fields to be able to accept the seeds. As you can see, because we talked about, they don't sprinkle the seeds directly into the field. And so what they have to do is they have to go and cultivate the soil and till this soil in a way that will even it out, as well as sort of get rid of all of the unwanted, the harmful gases and different things that get sort of built up throughout the off season. And then by evening it out, then when you go through it, by evening out underneath underneath all the water here, you end up with a flat bed that once those seeds have been planted, you have stalks that then grow evenly and consistently. When you're going through and planting and you've got depths anywhere from a couple inches to 1.5 feet, you're going to lose stuff when you're trying to plant it. Stuff isn't going to grow, and more than anything, it's going to lose out to weeds and other invasive species that are out here. And so having something really consistent is also with the level and the evenness, as well as how deep the water is that those seeds are in. That's going to allow the farmer to control how much the sunlight is getting in there and what what other types of weeds and other things are going to be able to grow in that environment. The lack of consistency is you're gonna wind up with all kinds of other things growing right and left, which might overtake the rice that you're trying to plant.
So having a nice flatbed and then the water is in there to prevent weeds that can't survive in water from getting into the rice fields. That's kind of a basic.
Exactly. In places that are going to use more pesticides and things like that, the water will generally be a lot more shallow. You can walk in, it'll be about up to your ankles. Because, by sprinkling that stuff, it's essentially they're growing rice varieties that have been developed to be strong to those chemicals, so they can deal with that. And then those chemicals are then are crafted to be able to wipe out any unwanted species or any invasive species. So they don't have to worry about it so much. Here, for example, when they're planting, a lot of this water is up to your knees just about, which is why when we were showing you the stalks there in the planting beds, they're actually much taller than what you actually might see at a lot of other more quote-unquote conventional rice farms. Yeah, so if you want to skip ahead here, a couple slides. And you can skip over that one there. So then you're looking at the actual planting process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so you saw a couple of, the first one that you just kind of jumped over there was in the machine when they load it up on there. And that's how you end up with those nice, beautifully straight, even rows there. They take these, they pull these off the planting beds that I just showed you, and they slot them in. And basically, as you drive, that whole thing shifts left, right, back and forth and just inserting those completely or evenly. That's why they've got these things, most of these rice fields carved out in a nice big square rectangle so that you can get these and drive those through there. The next slide is going to be planting by hand.
So why would you want to plant by hand if you've got these really, handy machines?
You wouldn't want to.
It's so much fun to do it that way.
Yeah, no, it is. No, you would. No, it's an amazing experience. And so any rice fields that are not perfectly even or set up perfectly, so places if there are just some very deep corners, or if they're not a perfect square, rectangle, or whatever, you can't get any machines in there. So to be able to go in there and by hand and be able to do that is another way of doing it. For those listening who come to Japan between April and May and go out visiting brewers, if you have brewer friends or going out and doing those visits, get in touch. There's a pretty good chance you have a chance to go out and do this someplace. It's a fantastic experience, and the sake tastes a million times better after doing this. It's good enough as it is, but after this, it's like it is the nectar of the gods after doing this for a day in the sweltering sun. And you can go ahead and skip ahead. And that's what it's going to look like after it's done. And you can skip ahead here.
That's about knee-deep water, you said?
And this one, this photo was taken a couple years ago. So this is that's good. The rice field that we're looking at now is going to be probably about your calves to your ankles, or sorry, your calves to your knees, somewhere in there. If you want to skip ahead to the next one, we'll kind of jump along. And then between April, May when you're planting, and then September, October when you're going to be doing your harvesting, it's a matter of basically contending with weeds or any invasive species that might get in there and attack those. And then this photo that you're looking at here is going to be about July or so. You're starting to see those sprout. You're seeing the individual grains grain on there. It's still kind of a green color. It's not that majestic gold that you will see in the next photo. If you want to move that ahead.
So this is fall then.
The one you're looking at, or at least the one that I'm seeing now, is going to be about July.
Oh, okay.
They're standing up almost perfectly straight. Now what we're looking at here, when it's all golden, this is going to be just before harvest. So you're going to be looking at anywhere from say mid-September through mid-October, depending on where you're at in general.
Such a beautiful time of year. Those fields of that color is kind of genius when you're in Japan.
Yeah, imagine I showed at the beginning of the presentation of the sort of the shot from above where you could see all the rice paddies when they were all filled with water just after the planting. I said, you imagine that when all of that is just gold like this. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Amazing.
Yeah, if you can, same. If you're out visiting sake breweries in the autumn, they have a lot of experience where you can go out and harvest by hand as well. So
about what time does harvest happen?
Again, it's going to be between generally mid-September through early mid-October. But again, that's going to depend on the region, their elevation, their climate, as well as what they're planting. A lot of places are starting to plant stuff they can harvest earlier, so they don't have to contend with the typhoon season that creeps in around September. Because a lot of people are probably familiar, especially with sake-specific varietals, those stalks tend to get really, really long. And when you see them, the ones in the photo are standing up pretty nicely. The long ones are like laying flat. They're all just laying on top of each other if they're left too long. You get a typhoon that comes through and all those things are sitting in the mud for a while and you can't harvest, and your harvest is shot. So you're starting to see more places that do more early harvest varietals, but a lot of the sake-specific varieties, the Yamada Nishiki, especially Kame no O, these more heirloom varietals are harvested generally much later, more in early to even late October.
Got it. Okay, so moving into harvest.
Yeah, so that's the harvest. You want to hop to the next slide here? So that's just up close of what it's going to look like. And so this is the actual harvesting. If you can make it this far, you're pretty much in good shape. That's just a combine that way you can basically just kind of drive it right through the fields, and it will take those and thresh them for you, and it makes your life pretty easy. You can go through there again if you want to do it by hand. You can go through with a scythe and wade through those and hack those down. But this is generally how it's done nowadays, and that is Tsurubutsu right in the combine there. All right. If you want to go through the next one there.
Okay, what are we looking at here?
This is after they've been harvested and they are drying. これの乾燥について、これなんか重要なポイント。I'm gonna ask about this a little bit here.
はい。乾燥は、まあ、14.5% から 15.5% ぐらい、まあ、理想値はあるんですけど、範囲でしないと、まあ、高すぎればカビが生えますし、低すぎるとやっぱり味が落ちるっていうところと、まあ、うちの、こだわりとしては、発芽する、ちゃんと発芽する形でゆっくり乾燥するっていうことを機械でも天日でも気をつけてやってます。はい。なので、これも全部自家採集で、その乾燥したもので、ちゃんと芽が生えて次の種になる。それをスピードアップすると、やっぱりその生命力が死んでしまうので、壊れてしまうので、芽が出ない。なので、玄米でも芽が出ない。これどれぐらい期間なんですか？これは、芽が当たられてから、
Wind picking up.
So yes, with the drying process, so what's important here is that how much moisture is being maintained in there in the drying process. Depending on the degree to which that's dried, that's really going to affect the nature and the quality of the rice going in, whether it's irrespective of table rice or a sake rice, what you're going to be using that for. However, you can end up with, for example, with him, because he takes all of his own seeds and then uses them for the following year. It's not just a matter of drying it out and having something you can eat. It's having something that has been dried to the proper degree. To where he can then get those seeds again, and they're going to germinate. You can get rice that you can then eat or then turn into sake that is not going to be to a level of quality that you're going to be able to then germinate and use again in the following year. A lot of places do not do this now, to actually after they're harvested actually take these and dry them in this manner. A lot of times they will thresh them and then send them through a machine that will dry them out, and then they can pack and store them, which certainly works. But in the case that we're looking at here, he's very much tuned into sort of every stage of that process and how what he grew that year is going to feed into what he's going to be growing the following year as well.
Great. That actually brings up one of the questions that we had, which is how soon after the harvest can a new crop be used for sake production?
Yeah. Let me check with Shoji-san here.
Okay.
Shoji-san. 例えばお酒を収穫してから酒に使えるお酒の仕込みに使えるようになるまでどれぐらいの期間なんですか？お米早い方がいいとか。
いや、そうね、まあ、あんまりその収穫してから、仕込みに使うので、長くない方がいい。そこまで。
Yeah. So in general, with regards to making sake, usually they brew sake from the rice from that season, right?
Yeah.
So for those that, a lot of times they will teach you that, historically, for a period of time, a lot of the people that work in the rice fields would then shift into the brewery following the end of the harvest season. Pretty much the rice that is harvested that year then gets shifted into the brewery. How that rice is cared for in the interim, right? Whether it's in refrigeration or at what temperature and whatnot is going to be significant, is important. That's going to affect things down the road. But using the rice from that year is standard.
All right. Another question. This is just kind of a sort of a very broad one, but broadly, can you talk about the very broad differences between table rice and sake rice?
Yeah. Broadly, 酒米と半米の違い、ざっくりと。
ざっくり。心拍があるかないか。
Basically, do you have that starchy center? How much of that starchy center do you have?
Got it.
Is essentially going to be when it comes to brewing sake and the related fermentation is how much of that is present in there. It's going to be the more prevalent that sake specific varietal, quote unquote, the better is kind of the current standard.
Great. Another great question here. What kind of invasive species do rice fields have to deal with? Maybe that's a big question, but specifically maybe at the rice field right there, what kind of invasive species or weeds and whatnot do they have to worry about?
Yeah, I will ask whether or not I can translate it or not, because I am not a, that's not my verb. What I can do, I will ask, and what I can do is if I can't get that, I will get a list, and I will pop into the nomikai toward the second half, and I can shoot a list out to everybody as well too, if I'm not able to turn that one out.
It was hard to translate plant names. It's like well, I can tell you the Japanese name. Oh man, gorgeous day there. Yeah, has everybody, I don't know if everybody's tried Kidoizumi that Shoji-san makes. It's really different, very unique sake. Got a lot of really bold, unique flavors to it. You don't find a ton of it here in the US, but there is a little bit.
It's interesting because everybody deals with all these different things that affect their farms, whether it's grapes and the importance, and then, when you're doing minimal pesticides, like they were saying, what do they have to be worried about? What's going to jump in there to prevent that from happening? It's pretty intriguing question, and probably lots of little techniques that they use to help prevent those things from existing.
Definitely.
So my brain's kind of melting a little bit here. Kamemushi, the example is one that he named of
what was that again?
Kamemushi.
Okay.
And so my brain's not working on the air, but one thing that he kind of iterated, and he said was really important though, however, is those, you're not trying to wipe them out necessarily, because they are part of the ecosystem as well too. So for example, the frogs, the spiders, those other things that are prevalent in the rice field, they are food for one another. They're all sort of sharing in that same ecosystem. So it's not a matter of eliminating one, it's how do you maintain a balance where those things can coexist, because they can have benefits as well too to that greater ecosystem. So that's sort of the challenge. It's not how do we get more of one and less than another, it's how do we sort of maintain that balance. So
okay. One question for you guys. We've got a couple more minutes here, but specifically, with this whole, obviously the whole kind of situation we're in right now, I've been hearing, I've listened today with an interview with Tom Colicchio, a famous American chef, on the radio about challenges to the U.S. Food system that's been happening here. How is the current situation affecting sort of the rice, sort of the whole rice and agriculture system in Japan? How is it going to affect this year's harvest? And selfishly for us, how's it going to affect sake?
Yeah, so this season as well as the coming season, I think it's gonna kind of reverberate for a little while. So let me kind of ask these gentlemen. Let me flip the camera around on them here.
We actually we've got another poll here. We want to bring that up. One thing while Justin is asking the question. We have that poll. Poll just on how to sort of raise awareness of sake overall. No, maybe not. Right.
We don't have that poll. We don't have that poll at the moment, but we do have sake. So
yeah.
For those of you who haven't been sipping while the question is being answered, cheers to all of you.
Yeah, kanpai.
Kanpai.
I've got actually my this is not a Somono Tengu cup. This is one of my favorite cups from Nizawa up in Miyagi. They do. I've only seen this stuff there. I haven't seen these in the U.S. But these great little, Patasaki-san. Yep, onsen. So something I miss right now. Can't go to onsen.
That's super good. I think this is the longest I've waited without saying kanpai. It's 53 minutes in. 53 minutes in. I haven't said kanpai yet. That's seriously. I finally got to do that. That's a good thing.
Kanpai indeed. Well, we're gonna do a lot more of that at the Nijikai.
Yes, we will.
So I'm going to split this into two responses here.
Okay.
And so just talking to Tsurubuchi-san first as well here. Oh, sorry, I'll get on the kanpai later here. So with regard, basically how are people's consumption patterns going to change? It's really hard to say, right? So with regard strictly to rice farming specifically, yes, it's a staple around here, but for him specifically, he has a product that he puts a lot of time and energy and effort into, which demands an equivalent price tag as well. So moving down the road, how is people's wallets and as well as their awareness is also going to be changing a lot with the nature of sort of what's happening as well. And so it's tough. Looking ahead, it's not going to be so much just a matter of I have product A, who's interested in product A, is how can we sort of create an environment where more people, he mentioned specifically people such as yourselves who are all tuning in today, how can we get folks like yourselves as well involved in this process so that they know that they're a little bit closer to what's actually happening here, have an understanding of the way that these things are crafted, the people that are making them, and then when it comes to then making sake, you know, at the end of the day, we make sake if there's not a, you know, environment of people that are in a position to appreciate it, you know, it's going to be a hard time. So how can we sort of pool not just our local resources together, for example, the three of us, but also the broader community to be able to be involved in that process, because that's going to be really important going forward, because it's really hard to determine exactly where people's, how people's loyalties are going to change in different areas and sort of what's going to resonate with people in sort of the coming stages that we're all up against. So, and then let me ask Shoji-san here with regards to sake specifically this year and the next year real quick.
Yeah, I've been hearing from a lot of different breweries that, you know, same as here in the U.S., it's sort of changing what people are drinking over there during this time. A lot of, I mean, I love a good chuhai, but there's been a big jump in kind of beer and chuhais and stuff. And sake, you know, even in Japan, we think of it as this iconic Japanese beverage. It's very much kind of a restaurant eating out beverage over there thing. Like, unfortunately, that old school tradition of, you know, your old oji-san, your father just having like a big bottle by the side of the table that he would pour a couple glasses each night and go into it the next night. Like, I've only encountered that when I've been out in the kind of really rural areas of Japan. Like, I haven't found that. You don't see that in Tokyo much.
Not well. I mean, not as much. I mean, I ran into a couple occasional friends that live like that in Tokyo, or families that have been there for a long time. But my homestay family in Oita, Grandpa had his bottle.
Yeah, no, definitely.
No joke. And, you know, it was as soon as I became part of the house, because I was the newest member, it was my job to make him his drink at the end of the night, whether it be shochu, generally shochu, but whether we're pouring sake or whatever. But yeah, shochu.
Well.
It's all right. Something we have to do. So, hey, Justin, welcome back.
Anyway, so yeah, so just a message from Shoji-san with regards to the current brewing season. Sort of timing-wise, you know, a lot of things, there wasn't really so much they could do this year in order to make any sorts of adjustments or anything of that nature. But yeah, sales are down. There's no way around it. The number of bottles being sent out into the world have decreased significantly. That being said, just putting the brakes on everything, it's not, he was saying, it's not just the conversation is not just about him. It's not just about sake and what he's making. Even if they say, you know, order less rice for next year, we got to cut back next year, you know, what happens to the rice farmers? That's going to reverberate all the way down the chain. And so, yeah, just sort of cutting down production is something that maybe you're going to see. With regards to Kiruzumi specifically, right now they're planning to bring in the same amount of rice that they were planning to, and brew the same amount of sake next year they were planning to. What the situation is going to look like, it's hard to say. But what's going to be really important is how can we then take sake and connect it to people in a way that it will integrate into their lives in sort of this new paradigm and what that's going to look like. And not just integrate it on a day-to-day level, but actually connect people throughout that chain, as we're saying here, so that people have access to not just the information, but the products, and then they're able to access the producers and be able to sort of be a part of that and then really integrate that into their lives.
Yeah, so I think we're getting down to basically, please drink more sake. Like,
right.
That's the best thing you can do.
For all of you attending, let's drink more sake.
Drink more sake. So we're kind of we're getting up towards 9 o'clock here, guys. Okay. I know a lot of you had questions. Justin's going to be taking a look at those, and then he's going to be popping into our Nijikai to be able to answer a couple of the questions overall. So thank you guys. もう本当にありがとうございます。もうお忙しい中で。So yeah, thank you guys very much. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to do next week?
Our little teaser. Next week, we've now learned about how that rice is planted, where it goes, how it grows, and when you harvest it and you get to use it. We're going to take a little trip to Nagano and spend time with a brewery that's in Suwa that's been around for a little while called Masumi, with one of our attendees here called Keith Norum and Nasutoji. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll see you all next week and hang out in Nagano for a little bit.
I thought I saw Keith in there. Hi, Keith.
Yeah, then also just again, a reminder, American Sake Association.org. You can go there. We've also got American Sake Association on Instagram and Facebook. Please find us there if you're not already connected. And we've got our Nijikai coming up. We should have the link coming to you guys right now. So
as soon as you leave that meeting, survey pops up. You get directed to our page. Boom. Link to the Nijikai. We'll see you there drinking in a few minutes. Lots of kampai to be had. Again, we'll try and answer those questions later. I'm copying them all to send to Justin so he gets a chance to ask those questions.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Justin.
All right.
Yeah,
We signing out.
Thank you very much.
We signing out here. Do we have one last second?
One last second? Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, this will be combined with you guys here shortly.
Oh, nice.
If those who know Hiro Izumi, they know AFS. The first sake we all brewed together was this Minamoto. It was the first entirely, it was 90% polished, as in not polished hardly at all. First entirely ambient yeasts, nothing chucked in there. We just let it run wild back in 2016, and it's pretty tasty. So we'll be.
Can you put those right up to the camera, or can you put the camera right up to them?
If I can do this and see.
Great.
Yeah, awesome.
So there we go. So that's what I will be joining you with here in about 40 minutes or so. So yeah, pull your questions and I will chat with these guys and I will meet up with you all here shortly. Thanks so much, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. Nijikai it is, guys.
All right, we're ready to go. Thank you all very much for, again, joining us on our weekly Sake Sunday Social. We'll be here again next week. Looking forward to hanging out with you in a few minutes on the Nijikai. And as always, Jamie, what do we say?
Kampai.
Kampai.
Same sake time, same sake channel.
There it is.
Kampai, guys. Thank you.